What's up? It's time for another episode of Montcast. I have a very special episode of Montcast this week in particular because this week the episode spotlight is on Be the Swarm, and you will get to hear my interview with Rob, the CEO and co-founder of Be the Swarm. Stay tuned to learn more about that. So for what's popular, there's not a whole lot of change. I did experiment with some different methods of finding out what's popular in specific niches, like for example, what's popular with Discord users and different things, but it's more or less the same thing. Rainbow Six Siege, a little bit of a spike over what it normally gets, but really not enough news in what's popular to warrant its own segment, so we'll just move on to this week's new game. So, yeah, I'm cheating. This week's new game is actually a bunch of different games. All of the Be the Swarm apps are my new game this week, so you can download all the Be the Swarm apps on Android and iOS. You'll learn more about Be the Swarm specifically later in this episode, but Flappy Bee, Stack the Dots, Memory Match, 2048 Bugs Crush, and Zombies are some really fun games, and you can earn money towards whatever cause you support by just playing the games. And you can do it for 5 minutes a day, you can do it for 30 seconds a day, and you'll get out of it what you put into it. And you put in that time day after day, you will definitely be rewarded. But I'll leave a link in the episode description for the Be the Swarm apps, both on Android and iOS. And you should stay tuned to hear my interview with Rob in the episode spotlight this week. So for video game news this week, it was actually a bit of a slower week overall, both in video game news and esports. But there is one big story that could impact the gaming community significantly internationally, and that's a developing story that Twitch might lose a massive chunk of its user base because Amazon and Amazon services have essentially just been banned, or there is a movement to ban the Amazon services, including Twitch, in Russia. Russia represents the second largest user base next to the United States as far as Twitch is concerned, and we are talking about millions of streamers and viewers every single day from the biggest country in the world that could potentially be losing access for an unknown period of time. And like I said, it's a developing story. The news just broke, but if it's as bad as it looks like it could potentially be, it's really going to impact the gaming community and the Twitch community, obviously. But I think it's going to have a bigger impact on the gaming community than people realize, because Twitch is such an influencer of not just video games, but all types of games. And it's definitely a story I'm going to be following, and I'll keep you up to date. I should have significantly more information next week's episode because we'll learn more about whether this is just like an oversight on somebody's part or what, but it has the potential to have some devastating impact right across the gaming community. Other than that, the Overwatch Retribution event, if you haven't participated or are participating, it's still going on until April the 30th. League of Legends is overhauling their mana. It's not in a live patch yet, but it is public information that specifically their mana and their mana regen systems are completely being overhauled. I don't need to tell you that this could potentially greatly impact the game, how it's played, definitely its meta, as especially mages are really targeted in this update. The specific details and what's actually going to make it to a live patch aren't quite known yet. It's potentially going to be a big shift right here in this big loot time for League of Legends as we approach the mid-season. LoL Esports, like I'll get to later, is kind of down in North America and Europe leading up to MSI, but again, more on that later. And Shenmue 1 and 2. I'm probably butchering that, and please correct me if I have mispronounced that, but the first and second game, which are the only two games in this series, were announced for PS4, Xbox One, and PC, but they are not remasters, they are just announced for it and upcoming. Your indie game this week, I feel like I could throw Be the Swarm here again, but I've decided not to go whole hog and just do a whole episode for Be the Swarm. I'm including another indie game called Friday the 13th Killer Puzzle. So this is not the Friday the 13th game that was so popular and still is relatively popular with Jason, but it is from that Friday the 13th franchise. It's just a different type of game altogether. It's hundreds of puzzles in one game. I'll leave a link in the episode description like I always do for these games. It's on Steam and you should check that out if Friday the 13th is up your alley. And if it's not, then maybe you like puzzle games and you'll like it anyways. And if you don't like puzzle games, maybe next week's games will be better for you. And boom, just like that, we are already into esports. So, League of Legends League Championship Series, NA and EU are both done. I recapped the Spring Split Finals in last week's episode, and these regions are kind of in a downtime at the moment while we wait for MSI to come up, which is the mid-season invitational. That will come up in May, and you bet that I will be covering that. However, there's more League of Legends than just North America and Europe. We have the LCK, which is Korea's region. We had the finals. It was an exciting final, especially Game 1 was the longest of the series, where the Africa Freaks took Game 1 off of Kingzone Dragon X, and it looked like, is Kingzone actually going to go down? No, Kingzone's not going to actually go down because they are arguably and relatively convincingly the best team in the world. They would go on to take games 2, 3, and 4 of the best of 5 and the spring split for Korea along with it. LPL, which is League of Legends China Pro League, The semifinals are coming up this weekend, and we got some exciting games over there, despite the fact that they don't exactly happen at convenient times for North American viewers. They will be exciting matches. We got Invictus Gaming versus Royal Never Give Up, two of the most storied franchises. Well, I don't think they're actually technically franchises, but two of the most storied teams in China going at it in the semifinals over there. Invictus Gaming is probably the favorite, but that's debatable, especially if you're talking about fan popularity. And in the other semifinal, we have Edward Gaming versus the Rogue Warriors. I'll recap those next week, and then the winners will ultimately move on to the Chinese Spring Split Finals. And then they will move on to their mid-season invitational. The NBA 2K League has signed a multi-year deal with, you guessed it, Twitch. That's a great way to start. I think that Twitch is the only real great platform if you want to have a serious esports league. That's definitely debatable, I'll admit, but I think that this is the right move, and signing the multi-year deal with Twitch specifically is how they're going to get the viewership that they want to get out of this league, and I think it's probably the only way. I'm also looking forward to seeing if they end up doing, much like League of Legends, multiple language broadcasts, although I would err on the side of they're only going to do English language broadcasts, at least to start, because I don't see the international audience there to warrant broadcasts of the matches in different languages. I could be very wrong though. Over in the Overwatch League, the Dallas Fuel, it's sad now, and I do feel really bad for the Dallas Fuel. For those of you who've been following the Overwatch League, prior to the start of the Overwatch League, after the rosters were announced and everybody was trying to figure out who has the best teams, but before they had actually played any games, the Dallas Fuel were one of the most hyped teams, arguably the most hyped team in the West for sure, behind those Korean teams. And it has been a disaster of a first season, and it keeps getting worse. There's more players leaving the organization. The XQC issues seem to not be isolated to one player, but more of an organization level thing. I don't really know much more than that to comment more in depth without being just like making stuff up. So I'm not going to do that. But I really do hope that, I know it's after the trade deadline, and so this year, this first inaugural season for the Dallas Fuel is probably a write-off at this point. But I really do hope they rebuild. They hopefully will get a chance between Season 1 and Season 2, especially with the anticipated expansion of the league, to maybe do some shuffling around. Hopefully they get it right and get competitive once again. Also in the Overwatch League, the London Spitfire and the Seoul Dynasty, two of the Korean teams in the league, despite London being based in England, they are full Korean rosters. They're struggling, and they're struggling a lot more than they have been. Why? That's up for debate for sure. I personally think it's a mix of a lot of reasons, but both of these teams are falling off of what they set their standard as, and that's probably got a lot to do with all the other teams in the league, well, most of them, vastly improving. That maybe the other teams are improving a lot faster than these Korean teams. However, the New York Excelsior results speak for themselves. they are dominating, and it's difficult to see who can see anybody who can really compete with them in the power rankings, but anything can happen. I'm really excited to see this league shifting so much. It's making for really exciting content, and I know I keep saying that episode after episode, but this league is just so dynamic, and the teams are changing in their power levels, in their rosters, and just so many different exciting things. I'm really glad I'm a fan of this league. And yeah, one last note, I completely overlooked DreamHack Marseille. So this is actually the event where the new Cloud9 roster has made its debut after their roster shuffles, with Skadoodle and Stewie2K leaving the team. Cloud9 specifically are off to a great start, but it's still very early in the DreamHack Marseille tournament. It goes on this weekend on Twitch. You can watch it, and on the DreamHack CSGO channel, I believe they'll host all the matches. They might even have a B channel running for secondary matches in this tournament, but it's this weekend, and I'll recap who did well in the late stages of the tournament next week. Now, it's time for our episode Spotlight. So here we are at the episode Spotlight. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Rob, who is the co-founder and CEO of Be the Swarm, a social giving platform. You'll learn more about that and the different games and different initiatives that Be the Swarm is a part of in our interview. I really hope you enjoy. Who are you, and where did you come from, for someone who's never heard of you before?
Yeah, so I'm Rob. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and I went to school in a small town called Prescott, Arizona, before I joined the military.
Excellent. What is Be the Swarm?
Be the Swarm is our social giving platform where our gamers play video games to raise funds for the causes that they care most about.
And how old is it?
It's a little over a year. Actually, I think it's a little under a year at this point. It's about a year old.
Excellent. What gave you the idea for Be the Swarm?
So basically, I've loved video games my entire life, and I was probably about 5 years old playing Nintendo. Grew up playing RPGs and racing Mario Brothers, and just I've always loved video games. And I've also had somewhat of a social impact desire through most of my life. And what I found out when I got older was some of the things that I used to have time for, like volunteering for different activities. I used to coach flag football and volunteer at some soup kitchens and just really small stuff. I basically became an adult and had a kid and couldn't really find time for that stuff anymore. But at the same time, I still always found time for video games. Of course, I didn't have as much time as I used to have. I wasn't playing World of Warcraft as much, but I was still playing, you name it, whatever I was addicted to on my phone for at least, 10 or 15 minutes a day. And then it kind of just like the thought kind of just hit me. And it was like, what if I could do both? What if I could play a video game and help people? I bet you that'd feel pretty good. And so we started Be the Swarm with that mentality, to where people would just play video games and raise money for different charities. What we found out very quickly, though, was that people really wanted control over what charities and causes that they supported. So our original model was to pick a new charity every day or two, and then change the charity because it was a lot easier to program. But what we found out was that people would, install a game on Monday and play Monday and Tuesday, but then they'd stop playing on Wednesday. And so what we found with the Be the Swarm platform was, like, if you just gave people the power to support the things that they personally care most about, then they'll come back the next day over and over again.
That sounds fantastic. Why did you decide to use mobile platforms and not maybe make a PC game?
So that's a great question, and we've came really close to releasing one of our games, Zombies, on Steam, and we've actually looked at making desktop versions for some of our games. We program all our games in Unity, and so it's actually not difficult for us to do that. But it ultimately had to tie back to where we saw the platform going, was really just people spending 10 or 15 minutes a day on their phones. The majority of revenue opportunity that we saw, because a lot of the games that we were making were very mobile-like, they were very easy. We just saw that the majority of revenue that we would raise would be on the mobile platform. But we've got a lot of requests from our users to go desktop, and so I'm thinking or hoping sometime in the near future we'll do that.
That sounds cool. So how do you actually generate money for the gamers that are playing your games?
Yep. So it's all through the in-game ads and in-app purchases. A lot of people don't realize, but ad revenue is actually quite significant. And as people are well aware now, everyone but senators, apparently Facebook makes all of their money off of ads. But every time somebody clicks on an ad in our network, that's between 50 cents and even $1.50. And then we also have in-app purchases for different items. And we just take that total revenue and distribute it amongst the amount of bees that people earn on the platform.
Great. So why does the value of bees change?
Yes, and so this is just us monitoring what's going on. Sometimes the ad networks pay us differently and don't pay us as much for the same type of behavior. And sometimes people just don't click on as many ads, or not as many people buy an in-app purchase. And so, or people are doing well in the games and just earning more bees. And so it's a combination of effects. We have a habit of checking it and changing it about every week or so. Normally the biggest changes occur with a newer game launch, because when we launch a new game, we kind of just guess. I mean, we basically play it ourselves and then try to figure out about where it's at. And so, for example, Memory Match, the amount of bees you earn per minute is way higher than anything else we've ever released. But the amount of ads you see are also a lot higher. And so it's a counterbalance. I think with it's been like the value of the bees probably going to be decreasing a little, but the amount of bees that everyone's getting are a lot higher.
I see. So you've taken an interesting approach in making a social network out of it, rather than just having everyone straight up earn the money for the bees that they win in game. Why did you decide to go with the social network style aspect?
Really, it was just like sometimes you gotta just ask yourself, like, what motivates you, and the thought of making a video game that people just play just for money for themselves, just working on something like that doesn't interest me. But working on something to where you can pick up your phone and play a video game and help your friends, or help, the Children's Miracle Network, or help your local animal shelter, or like, you name it. That to me is exciting, and that's to me is exactly the type of thing I want to be working on.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen all kinds of causes supported in the Be the Swarm app.
Yep.
Which of your games are the most popular, and why do you think those ones stand out above the rest?
So Bugs Crush, 2048, and Memory Match are all our most popular ones. I think at the end of the day, so for 2048 and Bugs Crush, I think the reason why those are most played are that they're just fun, and we knew it was a winning model because it was modeled after other popular games that was the exact same game mechanics, and it was just our different flavor of the same game. And I play both games daily, and so it's just simple. You don't have to put that much into it, but yet at the same time it's relaxing and enjoyable. And Memory Match is in the same boat, but to me the thing that makes Memory Match the funnest is just revealing the chess. And so have you played?
I have played, not as much as I have of some of the other games, but I have played Memory Match, and the chests are an interesting little change. Yeah,
we had a lot of requests from our gamers who were, we didn't know if this was going to work or not, and we didn't know whether, like, how many bees we could give out, and whether the value of the bee would be destroyed if we let people play endlessly, and we were concerned about hackers, and we had all these concerns. And with Memory Match, we solved a lot of those concerns, and I think we found a good balance to give all of our swarmers ultimately what they wanted, which was to not have like a daily limit on the number of bees they could earn.
So what goes into your decision when you try to figure out what game you're going to make next?
It's just our all of our gamers that just tell us what they want to see a lot of times. And so Memory Match was definitely not a game that I expected to probably make a year ago. But believe it or not, it was our number 2 most requested game, right underneath, Bugs Crush, effectively. And so we, right now, the way we listen to people is through our Discord channel. And so people who post ideas there basically get, listened to. And so we normally have a backlog of things that we're working on, and so it doesn't always happen super rapidly, but all of the games that we go after normally come from people's recommendations.
Great. I know that Memory Match just rolled out not even a couple weeks ago, I think. But do we know what might be next in line, or would we have to go check the Discord for that?
The next thing we're releasing is actually a revamp of our social network, or our actual Be the Swarm platform. What we noticed was that for people who are used to the platform, they didn't seem to enjoy having to relaunch a new application in order to view the Swarm feed. And in addition, for people who just joined the platform for the first time, they didn't always find or even know about the actual platform itself unless they heard about Be the Swarm from somebody else. And so what we've done is reprogrammed the platform and redesigned it using Unity, and then we're going to put it in all of our games. And so you'll be able to play Bugs Crush and then just swipe right or press a button, and then next thing you know, you're going to be in the Be the Swarm platform.
That sounds great. So if like tomorrow a whole bunch of more players started playing the games and earning bees, would the value of the bee go up because there's more ad revenue being generated, or down because there's more bees in circulation?
In theory, it should stay the same. And so if the people joining buy as many in-app purchases, click as many ads, and the big one is really play as long and as much as our current user base, then it should stay the same. If they do more of that, then it'll go up, and if they do less of that, then it'll go down. It really just depends on what type of people we're bringing in. We're also doing better at figuring out an in-app purchase model, which definitely helps with the values of the bees. And so we think we're getting better at video games, or at least we like to think so. And so we think over time the value might increase, or we might see how people are using memory match, and we might find out that they actually just would rather get a whole bunch of bees. And yeah, the value might go down a little bit, but if they got them, more frequently, it would actually provide a better experience.
Right. Well, I think that's close to it. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
Other than just everyone listening, just thank you for your time, and we absolutely love what we're doing, and we absolutely love all the gamers and swarmers that are on our platform, helping us out, helping each other out. Like, it is the greatest community I've ever been a part of, and one of the best things in my life. So thank you guys.
That's fantastic. And all of the apps, both the social network and the games, are for both iOS and Android, right?
Yep, correct.
Any shoutouts?
No, just actually, shout out to my wife, Jen, who puts up with me and lets me do this crazy stuff.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for speaking with me.
Yeah, I very much appreciate it, and look forward to it.
Thank you once again to Rob from Be the Swarm for taking the time to have a conversation with me and help spread the word about Be the Swarm. It's a really great initiative, and if you haven't already, you should go check it out. Once again, I'm going to leave the links in the episode description so you can easily go find what you need to find to get yourself started there. I'm going to leave you with subscribe so you never miss an episode. And thank you to Approaching Nirvana for providing the background music in this yet another episode of Montcast. I'll see you next Friday.